illustrators, and picture book authors. Entries are open for the Storyteller's Shelf Podcast Consumer Awards. Win a cash prize, a featured interview, and more. Get your work seen, celebrated, and supported. Submit now and join the family.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Storyteller Shelf podcast. As usual, here is Jackie and Teresa, and we've brought another incredible and inspiring guest for you to listen into today. We have Felicia, and Felicia is the founder of StoryVerse Land, which you guys as authors and illustrators particularly are going to want to hear about, this new publisher. So, Felicia, thank you so much for being here with us today. We would love to start off by kind of getting to know who you are, what your journey is, and what inspired you to start Storyverse Land.
Thank you so much for having us firstly, right? I'm really happy to be here to share our little story as well. From a young age, I always loved books. I've always been a bookworm, carried books wherever I went, and that kind of followed me into my adulthood. And in many ways, Storyverse Land came out from that. A love for books, and that I wanted to share this love with other people because I had nieces along the way that have now been converted into a bookworm too. But the biggest thing I realized in recent years is with the advent of technology, as great as it is, we're losing the children to the devices. And in Storyverse Land, what we're trying to do is we're trying to remind them that books are also fun in a way that they can see it. Because in moving visuals like your shows and your games, it's very easy to get zapped into that world. I mean, some nights I spend many hours scrolling Instagram and TikTok. I admit I do that too, right? But if they can see themselves in the book, if they see their name in the book, which is very precious, they hopefully then that also says, this is my book. I want to read it. And when we create that, I want to read it concept in them, then hopefully that will continue. They will want to read more. They'll be more excited to pick up books. And the end goal for me is I hope they become readers and bookworms as adults like us as well. At the end of the day, as readers and writers, we want everybody to enjoy this beautiful world that many of us create.
Yes, we are on a secret mission, all of us, to convert everyone into a bookish bookworm person. All right, so let's work backwards a little bit. Can you tell us what exactly is Storyverse Land doing and what's your mission?
So our very beautiful tagline that I can't even remember where it came from, but I think in one of our many meetings it came out where we said really where we want children to be the hero of the story, which means that we write the stories and the person who buys the book gets to personalize the book for the child. Right. So if your child's name is Maya, Emily, Vincent, it doesn't matter what their name is, we can put their name in our book. They can choose personalization options from skin tone, hairstyle, hair color, so that while at this juncture, I've been telling my tech team that we want to do exactly as how the child looks, but they said that's not possible yet. So we have closest likeness possible to get to what the child could conceive that it could be them, right? I come from Singapore, as you know, and I'm a mixed race, so I'm Chinese mixed with Eurasian. So our skin tones are slightly different. And when I used to buy books for my nieces, they couldn't see themselves. They're like, that's not me, auntie. And I could understand why they say that, because we brought them up as mixed race children and they can understand the differences because we have friends, we're a melting pot of cultures and ethnicities here, so they can see the difference in all of us. And as little children, it's very obvious to them. So I also wanted to see how we can bridge that gap, because in traditional publishing, technically, I print 10,000 of the same book and you're going to read what the story are beautiful, but it's very hard for the children sometimes to see themselves in the book. So that was one of our things where we wanted to be able to put the child in the book where they become the story hero, where they are the main character instead. Whatever story our beautiful writer has written for us. And so that was where it started. And it has evolved into this amazing thing today where our writers are also excited on, can we give them more different paths to take? I said, we can. We just have different books. We can't change that particular part. Hopefully one day as the technology gets better, maybe we can do that. I don't know. I'll leave that to the technical team to figure out because I give them very tall orders.
That's funny. There's always room to grow from where you are, but you are starting off with an incredible foundation to really support representation. And for people listening in, Felicia, Teresa, and I have spoken off camera a bit about this before, but we are so excited about this mission because we see the fight in America to constantly have representation because we're very much a melting pot as well. And our families in particular are, mixed ethnicity, mixed race, and mixed culture. So we know firsthand what the challenge is. And Felicia's right. We're really always fighting against technology, the Oculus, video games, Nintendo Switch, and all of the fun things that kids really get sucked in with. And I just see a huge potential to combat that with books that you have yourself in, because they can kind of translate that same excitement that comes from creating an avatar in video games into reading. And hopefully that'll spark the same excitement pathway and get them onto a very good habit.
Actually, I like that you said that, because if you go to the website and look at our personalization screen, we've actually modeled that after a avatar concept, so that for many adults who also play games these days, it is something they understand how to do. So it made it easier from a UX perspective. But if you want to do it with your child, they know how to do it, right? I give it to my nieces. Obviously, they're currently 12 and 14, and they've not lived without gadgets their whole life, obviously. I don't even need to tell them what to do. They just, and make my avatar. I'm like, good job. So it makes it easy for us, and that's really what we modeled the app after in that concept, so that children can also see the linkage from a game to hopefully then the book.
Yeah, now we're speaking the same language to them.
I think we're all here to encourage reading. We are all here to make children be cognizant about there are bigger things around them. And we're all doing it in our own special ways, because not everybody can do this. Trust me. When we had to develop the technical aspects of Storyverse, it was very difficult. It was over a year in the making. I can't say enough amazing things about our technical team, because we went through 3 different tech stacks before we got to where we are. So 3 overhauls, but in between we had to still try new things before we said, okay, we have to give up this stack. So it was a very painful start for our journey, right, to find this stack, and this stack finally works for us. I mean, it's not perfect. Let's be honest, it's not perfect. I'm taking a concept of forever better and we'll keep making it better, but it's an amazing thing that we've come to today from the original one that we looked at. I've seen its evolution, so I can understand how much work our technical team put into it. And it's not easy. If I didn't have the brainchild of my partner, all right, because he's the technical person, and he sees code and it comes to life for him, while we see books and it comes to life for us. And so these things and if you don't have these kind of talents, I also think it's going to be very difficult for big publishers to do. Although he's asked me, why didn't you ask the publishers to use our platform now? I said, we can.
I'm actually really fascinated by that. Can you walk us through what goes into creating one of the personalized books, from manuscript wish list to submission to acquisition to final product?
So we started with the concept that we also wanted to impart values to the children, because sometimes the book is not just a book, right? It's a way they're going to learn things about the world around them. So we have 10 different characteristics we're focusing on, from being grateful, being creative, being inclusive. And each book we've requested for the writers to write a book and have one of these core traits that will tell a story. However they tell it, we're happy to look at it. So the special things that they just have to note is that the child needs to be generic enough but specific enough so the child can also see themselves in the book, right? So sometimes they will write things like, Lily had a pink color backpack she brought to school. And I'll have to send it back and say, Lily cannot have a pink color backpack because it also might not be Lily. And we try to be inclusive, where we try not to have red and blue so distinctively in the books, because let's say if I have a child's bedroom in one of the spreads and then I have a blue bedspread throughout, then if a child doesn't like blue, we will have a problem. So even the illustrators have to think about having the room having a few different colors, so it doesn't feel like it's dominated by one color. Because I remember as a child, I wanted a blue bedroom. And I have blue bed sheets, I had blue curtains and things like that. But if you gave that to my sister, she'd be like, She was like, so even from the writing to the drawings, everybody needs to think about it is we're drawing for many people at the same time, which has given us some issues along the way, but we've managed to work around it. And I think from a writer's perspective, we've asked them all to write in a third person so that we can always reference Emily went to the market, Jolene followed her grandfather to the park. So the names can be easily changed, right? And we want to reference the person in the book with them because, for example, if we say Jolene went with her grandfather to the park, and for how do you call your grandparents?
For me, I'd say grandma, grandpa. For my husband, though, he would have said abuelita, abuelito. So, or abue.
Because our books are created in such a way, we can have Jolene goes to the park with Abue. We've allowed for the names of the children to be changed, but also how they call their parent, their grandparent. Even if it's not a parent in the story, maybe it's an auntie, we can also put that in with ease. And that's one of the key things we really spoke to the writers about, to write in that format so that when they take the text and they put it into the books, we can change the books the system can understand what to change, and then it becomes a really personalized book as well, because sometimes it's not only for the child, right? If the child is living with a grandparent and I get the grandparent book, it's a good time for them to bond together as well. So those were the key things we were looking for the manuscripts, and also then for the illustrators to take it on, because the illustrators have a immense job. When we produce a normal book, yes, if they're 32 pages, they're 32 spreads, right? And they're just going to do 32 images that we have to print. When we were counting many months ago, one of our tech people said, Felicia, do you know that each book has over 150,000 different images? Because if we have 8 skin tones per character, we have 12 hairstyles. Each hairstyle has 8 colors. We have 4 outfits, and we have glasses on top of it. And for adult males, we have facial hair options as well. That's a lot of images. So we were very particular about that we really needed 8 different skin tones minimally, because then it really covers from a really light skin tone all the way to the really dark skin tones, and the in-betweens, a little bit yellow, and we have options, right? So for that, and with that in mind, the tech team has to take all these images from the illustrator and you have to put it into the system so that it gets churned out correctly each time you pick something, because we have 30 pages of character personalization pages. Some pages have no personalization, and the tech team are very thankful for those pages. So they take all these pictures, the name that you provided at the beginning also gets taken, and then within 30 seconds, the first few pages are within a few seconds, but the whole book takes about 30 seconds to load so that you can see your book as it will come to you printed after that as well. So that is an amazing thing they have done, and it took so many people, right? We had the writers set up, and we had to make sure that the text is correct so that it's generic enough where I don't say, we don't have rhyming for names, we don't have specific pink color backpacks or things like that. The illustrators who have to, I think they, beyond the tech team, the people who work unfortunately the hardest, because they create all these layerings for us. Then the technical team takes over and puts the magic together. So it's a massive undertaking from manuscript to production. And for the authors that have seen it come to life, and for illustrators that have seen it come to life, I like to say they're really thankful for them, and they really like the work we've done with them so far. So I think we've at least accomplished that.
You have so many steps. There's like a lot involved, and the fact that you have made it inclusive in such a way, that's amazing, and I admire that. Like, you have to go more into the technical side of how you guys go about creating that, because there's so much involved in that. I can't imagine. But going into the illustration part of that, how does your team approach the artwork? You mentioned that a little bit. Could you expand on that?
So I think, like most publishers or people who work with illustrators, we do a quick chat at the beginning to see how we want to think the book through, right? We also pick out illustrators based on their styles, because at the end of the day, we want to respect the illustrator, and we are trying to work with illustrators all over the world as well. Currently, we have illustrators from Vietnam, Indonesia, India, Sri Lanka, and we want them to bring some of their style into the books, because at the end of the day, we're selling the books worldwide. I want to be able to say, hey, we've got different styles. You don't like this style, we have another style. And if we're going to showcase that we're inclusive, we really need to be inclusive as well. We're happy to take books from all over the world. We're happy to work with illustrators all over the world. But in talks with somebody but I don't know if she's going to, I think she's like she's a bit scared about the number of visuals to create, which is fair enough. It's quite daunting. So, but we have like conversations with the illustrators at the beginning to see how we want to work it through the pages. I'm happy to take their ideas as well, because at the end of the day, they are the subject matter experts. From then, the sketches will come. Sketches and coloring will be the first parts, and then we look at the personalization pieces after that, because once we have the bigger idea, then we can see the personalization pieces to see how we're gonna, whether or not we can use them correctly, because at that point, our tech team has to come in already, because there are some points layering is an issue. So we need to make sure that the work that we do not, whatever we're drawing can be uploaded into the system as well. So that also sometimes takes us back a few steps, because if they say, no, this is a problem due to, there was a layering issue we couldn't get around. We literally had to redraw the whole page to make it fit. So things like that. We try not to do the redrawing, to be fair, to the illustrators as well, but sometimes there are no ways around it also. So we have to do that. And the technical team plays a big role in the illustration, during the illustration process, to also ensure that we don't do the redrawing multiple times. I think so far, we've only redrawn 2 spreads. I know that sounds like a lot, but when we've only have so few books, but to think about the fact that it's really a massive undertaking, I think to redraw 2 pages only was quite a great thing for us, because that means we got it right the rest of the pages, and our technical team has no issues. So with that in mind, the personalization also comes with a set of rules, right? Like how the authors had a set of rules. Third person, must have one of our 10 different character values. Our illustrators also have a set of rules. So our 8 skin tones are more or less set, and they will try to match it as close as they can. Hair colors are also set, because we will have your blondes, your strawberry blondes, your dark browns, your dark hair, your in-between caramel colors, and we actually have a redhead option all the time. Although they ask me why. Very few people are red. I agree, there are very few, but there are redheads out there in the world. There are, right? I don't have red hair. And somebody asked, are you going to do like different colors for adults? I said, give me a while, because I've seen some of my parent friends have like pink hair, green hair. Unfortunately, at this point, we are not able to do that. 8 colors for 12 different hairstyles is a big thing already, right? And we, of course, if we do a grandparent story, we have salt and pepper hair as well, right? So these are I guess, guidelines for the illustrators to follow, so that at least from one book to another, you're going to get 8 haircuts. You're going to get 8 skin tones, you're going to get 12 hairstyles to pick from, things like that. We wanted to at least keep something consistent throughout, so that when you're shopping, you get a similar skin tone. If you found your skin tone you like, you can find it in similar books after that as well. It might be some differences because of the coloring from the illustrator standpoint, but generically we say this is what we're trying to achieve, so that the illustrator can follow that accordingly as well. So I think they've done a pretty amazing job of following that. I can see the different ethnicities throughout our 8, and I hope everybody can find a skin tone they like. A skin tone that matches them as closely as possible was our goal, right? That was our goal, and I hope we've met it.
Felicia, you're really blowing my mind with all of the technical bits that go behind creating this customized book process. And we really love to kind of bring these fine details to our audience, because a lot of them want to either work in publishing as authors and illustrators, or they want to work on it on the other side. So they want to be the tech person. They want to help project management. And you don't know these things unless you're there. So this is really like insider advice for people to take notes on. But I remember when we spoke before, we talked a little bit about the printing process for these books and how it's unique and very different from mass printing one book, which a lot of traditional publishers do. So could you tell us a little bit more about how these books are printed before they're shipped to people who buy them?
Wow, that's a big question, and one of our huge stumbling blocks when we started. So many people didn't understand when we asked them, because we wrote. I used to be in magazine publishing at the start of my career, so I would give them like cover, trim size, and cover paper, inside paper, and I was trained to do that. So I kept sending this out to printers. At the end of it will be always the quantity, and I always put there 1. And I had many printers call me back, hi, can I just confirm your quantity? Is it 1,000, 10,000? Because you might have made an error. I said, no, it's correct, 1. So finding printers to work with us was a huge challenge. It was definitely a huge challenge. A lot of them didn't understand what we were trying to do. Even those smaller printers are like, oh, like my minimum is 50. Like, Yeah, what we're gonna do with 50 books, right? So one of the reasons why we cannot ship everywhere is printing and shipping issues. So we found some printers in different geographics that will help us. What we try to do is we try to find a printer as close to the geography as possible. So as of today, we're very proud to say that we can ship to Singapore, of course. I live here. Singapore, Malaysia. We ship to India as well. We ship to Australia. And the last person on the list that we ship to these days, we ship to the USA. While we couldn't find a printer in the USA, I'm still happy to keep looking. I will keep looking for the best option for the end goal to bring down our cost, because the lower my cost is, the lower I can sell this book as well, right? But what we're doing is we found a shipper to ship our books across to the US at a reasonable shipping price. Because I was thinking, maybe I can use my Malaysia printer to ship to the US. Yeah, the shipping was more than the cost of the book. So we have to think about all this, the printing cost versus the shipping cost, and if we can make that, we can make that, that'd be great. If there are printers in the US listening, please reach out to us. We're happy to work with you. You can print one book at a time. Right. And for the countries that we haven't been able to ship to yet, we are still looking for many different places. And even though I live in Asia, it is a problem to ship to most countries in Southeast Asia alone due to the cost of it. And I can't find in-country printers as well. Either the quality isn't up to scratch, or they just are not able to print one book at a time, because that really is a difficult thing for a lot of printers. Most of them have really big setups, offset printing, but digital printing is not also set up to also for book binding issues. One of our biggest hurdles, and I think it will continue being our biggest hurdle as we try to expand to more countries as well.
This goes into one of my questions, which is, what's something unexpected you've learned while building the publishing side of Storyverse Land?
I think we didn't expect how difficult it was to do the technical side, right? Because one of the key reasons why we embarked on this, besides the fact that we had this idea in our minds, was that we thought that the technical will be reasonably easy to implement. 3 stacks later, we realized that wasn't it. I thought it was a great idea and I had big plans with this, but I think we didn't really foresee how much problems the number of images was. I think one of the earlier when because we developed the app by itself separately to see whether or not it was even viable. And one of the first few times we developed it, it took almost 5 minutes to churn out the whole book. Yeah, nobody would buy it. They would have just closed the window on me, right? So one of the things we stressed about was also user experiences. And if it's really going to take 5 minutes, nobody's going to wait for that book to load and they will not buy it, right? So I think we understood that it wouldn't be easy. We just didn't expect it to be.
So a lot of it is trial and error, and every creative venture is very much a journey, and there are sticky, tricky bits to it that you just have to work out. So I'm glad you guys were able to overcome it.
We have it covered now.
We appreciate you being so candid in the challenges that you're facing, because again, we love to share this realistic point of view, which is that it takes some bumps to get onto the right pathway. But going off of that, we would love to hear about some wins that you've had or some uplifting moments that really stood out to you as you are building and launching Storyverse.
So one of the reasons why we did this was because I've always been very inspired by my nieces. So one of them is the bookworm. The other one is starting to find her own character, and that's fine. She still reads from time to time. And at the end of the day, not everybody will end up being a bookworm, but as long as they read, that's my angle. And when they were younger, I was like, oh wow, the auntie that was always bringing gifts and books to them and things like that. So they were always very excited. So now they are 14 and 12. And I'm not so cool anymore, right? I'm not the cool auntie anymore, unfortunately, which kind of stung a little bit. But when I showed them a book with their name in it, right? Because both their names are quite unique. My brother really wanted them to have unique names. So it's not something you'll find like on a keychain or on a fridge magnet. So when I finally created a visual for them to see what I was doing, my niece, the younger one, looked at it and she's like, wow, that's my name and that looks like me. And it was that moment I'm like, this is 1 year of stress, all worth it. 1 year of stress, all worth it, because if she, as a 12-year-old child, can see herself in the book, and I feel like I got validated that every child who receives the book now will also have, oh, that's my name, right? And so as the books are going out, and I've already some of the people have wrote in. They're my friends, so they had to write in. People who bought and I don't know them, we've asked them for reviews, but we haven't heard back. But for my friends, they're like, wow, this is amazing. My daughter really likes it. My son really likes it. These are things that we're definitely going to take with us, right? And when I shared these messages with the team, they also went, because it's really the validation of the hard work they put in, that the children can see themselves in the book. At the end of the day, that is what we want. We want children to be able to see, and that is, for us, will always be the win. It will always be the win. And for every new person that tells us that my child likes your books, that will be a new win for us. And while we are remote, we unfortunately have no one wall to stick all this up. The technical team created a wall so that I can just put a picture up on it, or a screenshot of these things for them to go and look at when they're having a bad day, when things are not working out for them. And well, one day, soon, I hope we'll fill the wall. And as a marketer, it's really, really very difficult to get people to give reviews, though. And we're a brand new brand. They're buying it. I'm like really thankful if people are buying the books already. To get them to give a review, I'll work on that. Or I'll work on that.
I wanted to just say one thing. When there's more people, and there will be very soon, in the next few weeks and next few months, you should have a map of the world, and then have like the people, like where they're from.
A map. I've requested for it already. So we are in sync, Teresa. We're in sync. And we want to include this map in the future to our website. Because I want it for the website so that you can see who around you have bought. And I don't know if you remember this, but Books Depository, when they were around, they used to have a map of where people bought. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. And that's what I referenced. And of course, my technical director said, okay, we'll get to it.
No, we had this conversation between us about our podcast because we have so many different people from different parts of the world that have come on as guests for the podcast.
But I have to say, I love this idea of putting all the positive feedback in one place that everyone can see, because working in publishing is really hard. There are days that it goes beyond the regular corporate stress, and it goes into, again, going back to the challenges that you face, trying to find new solutions, being innovative, having to go through illustrations and spreads. This is a product that is unlike other sales products, especially a customized book. You're going to be giving each book a lot of attention. So I can only imagine the places that I've worked that seeing that appreciation board of how your mission is actually playing out can keep you uplifted and keep you happy and keep you motivated. Because if you lose sight of the end game goal, you will fall down in a pile of stress. So you have to remember what you're working towards and all the smiles that really come from it, because this is a business that really touches people, just like your niece. Oh my gosh, I'm an adult, and if I see my name and someone who looks like me in a book, I would probably have to just take a couple days and let it sink in that it's real and get really excited, and it would light me up for the next like 5 months.
Yeah, they did they tried to make one of me. It was quite cute that the team put it together just as when we launched, they just put it together. Like, it was quite cute because they got the tech team to do it because they wanted to take it out of the book, and the only way to do that is to ask the tech team for help. So they did it. They just literally a picture of me. I should find it. I don't know. I think I have the JPEG somewhere as well. It was quite close, except the team said, yeah, we couldn't find one with eyeliner. Because every time I'm on camera with them, I'm always wearing eyeliner. I have this thing about eyeliner. And I have somebody many years ago, I drew a picture. I got somebody to draw a picture of me and my dog to use for my other socials, because I do marketing and a lot of different things. And I didn't always want to use my actual face. So, and one of the instructions I gave to the illustrator was, I need an eyeliner. And she really had a very nice winged eyeliner on my eyes for that picture. So, and they seen it many times, so they understood the concept, but they couldn't. None of our drawings had eyeliners. All the women, I guess, we didn't draw an eyeliner on them.
Okay, maybe makeup is coming soon in a couple of years. Goodness, that's really sweet of them and very thoughtful. It just goes to show how close you all are and how good the team morale is. That's great to hear. We imagine, and let us know if we're correct, that your main consumer is likely going to be parents, grandparents, caregivers that are buying these gifts for children in their family. But we would love to know if you have any ideas on how these customized books could potentially support people like educators, teachers, or librarians that work in programming or engagement activities.
Wow, that would be a difficult one because then we're talking a class of people. But one of the things that they can also do is because the books are written in a third person format, and if they can showcase, maybe different days they showcase different students, for example, in a classroom, right? So today I can read the story for Vivian, and maybe tomorrow, or not tomorrow, maybe not tomorrow, maybe next week is Jack's birthday. So then they will have to change it up because the books will only be in one, but they can change it up because the books have already been created for that. And if a school wants to buy it in different formats, for example, maybe we'll just pick 3 or 4 different skin tones so that it will cover a good range of students as well. That will also help the inclusivity factor. One of the things we want to do was also to be able to see how we can customize a batch of books for a birthday party. Right? Because if you know your 20, 30 children are coming, if you give it to us ahead of time, we can try to then print those 20, 30 books and ship them to you prior to the party, obviously. And you will have a really interesting take-home gift for all the children. So certain things like this, it's on the cards, but we haven't done the bulk concept yet because, the technical team will say, give me a moment. But the idea is there that one, we did start as an individualized gifting piece, but at the end of the day, this is not the only thing you can do, right? Because if I'm a parent and I have a bunch of children coming to my house and I want to give them all books, I also don't want them to fight over those books, right? Because 2 children, same book, problems. Or 2 children, 1 book, bigger problems. And create each one on its own. Everybody has a book to take home. Nobody's gonna fight at a party. No fighting, everyone. And it's a really nice thing to remember them by, because we can't do this now. I can't say, oh, you came to Jolene's birthday and we're giving you this book. But it's something we can think about in the future too. There are things we can do from the names, colors. If it's a bulk creation, it makes it easier for us and the team to take on. It's really just a bulk creation. The same book 20 times. Everybody gets a different name. We have some of them in different clothes. We just need to know the parameters that we need to follow in that sense. I did think about this before, right? If I'm reading a book, if I get a chance to do like a live reading to children and things like that, I also want to change up the names from time to time because it's easy for me because I know the name, right? And every time the name appears, I just change the name. And for me, because I've been playing with this book for so long, it's easier for me to just do that. But on the fly, it might be harder for some people, I guess. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible. So if you have 4 different books from me, every week you can read a different book if in hopes that there's a different child's birthday that week in a classroom, right? And if you go through the 4 stories every week, as if they're quite young, they possibly won't remember until 6 months down the road when you read the story 3 times. So that's a way to get around it. 4 books or 5, depending on how big your class is, so that you can rotate through the books as well. Because children, they don't remember everything at the first reading as well, which is great when you can reread it 3 weeks down the road and nobody will remember from that. So 4 to 5 books with different personalization options, and then the teacher can use whoever's birthday is that month or that week gets their name in the story. All right, on the fly. Any teachers want to? I'll give you a discount.
But I'll add something in there for our librarian listeners, which I know we have a few. But in the States, we have a lot of readership engagement programs, particularly for lower socioeconomic areas, where they try to stimulate reading by engaging kids and giving them a prize, right? So a reward system for reading X amount of books. And I could really see this type of book working out well as a prize for a child that's gone through a reading program, because you can easily support this cost in the library grant. Just knowing from the insider type of knowledge, but not everybody would remember that probably. But that being said, I have a feeling we have a couple of librarians that will jump on the chance to get a few customized books for some kids who really make the libraries their home, of which there are many, particular in the inner cities. And if they had cool books like this, they might entice their friends to come hang out with them and start making the library second home.
Well, I mean, I think, especially in Singapore, we've lost that going to the library concept. I mean, I still see parents taking their children to the library, but I think the going to the library these days is more afterthought than let's go to the library every week. I used to go to the library to research for my different schoolwork and things like that, and so I kept going to the library quite often. These days, agreeably, I don't remember the last time I went to the library for research either, because we have the internet. But it's a process, I guess. I see Singapore's libraries also trying very hard to bring people back, having these kind of conversations, having like little workshops. And we do want to try and do something to the libraries, even in Singapore, because at the end of the day, our end goal is to make sure that every child has a chance to read, a chance to pick up a book, because reading is a life skill and it changes lives, right? Because in my work, some of my work took me to India a lot, and I see the problems, right? I think especially in big countries like India, a lot of the Southeast Asian countries as well, we have a lot of these issues because they're stuck in that cycle. And they can't get out of it. And in the long run, personal goal of mine is really to make sure that we can maybe we won't bring these personalized books, but we can bring books to these children in countries and places where they might not have access to books, to help them change the potential of their lives. Especially, I know I'm gonna sound a little bit feminist here, but also a lot of the girls in this region especially have that problem where their parents might say, oh, they're just here to keep the house, they get married, I don't need to care about their education, right? And we want to change that as well, because I guess I'm the in-between in my generations, right? My grandmother was quite traditional, but she gave me the opportunity to do whatever I want. I remember my aunties, when I was like in my early 20s, they kept asking me, when am I going to settle down? That kind of questions. And at that point, I was working really hard to get myself noticed in the industry that I was in. And my grandmother just told them, let her be. She's doing what she wants to do and she will do it well. For a lady whose entire life she was looking after her children and after that her grandchildren, because she was brought up to do that, for her to say that and let me do my own, to try and achieve my own goals that didn't involve a household, I think that was really big of her and really very forward thinking of her to allow me to do so. I had her in my corner. Some of these young children don't have anyone in their corner, not because the parents don't want to, but I think because they also don't know how. All right. To be fair, some of them don't know how to do this. And so I feel really strongly that every girl needs an education, or at least a chance for an education, no matter what. And so one of the things I really want to do in the future is really to be able to bring books to these countries, places, or whether it's my books, or whether it's the StoryVerse land books or other people's books. It doesn't really matter, because for them, a book could change their lives.
Shop customizable picture books that spark imagination. Get 10% off with code StorytellersShelf10 on StoryVerseland.com.
I think this is beautiful when you're talking about that. And when you're mentioning your grandmother, I had a grandmother that was very traditional like that. She married very, very young, but she was always in our corner. Like, she had a lot of granddaughters, and she also was the same way. And she was very, very feisty lady too. So, don't mess with grandmas. Grandmas are awesome.
Don't mess with the grandmas.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I feel like this is a conversation for another time too, because this is like one of those, like, my grandmother was an avid reader, but you know what? She didn't get to finish high school because she was going through World War II. So she didn't get to finish high school, but she was really adamant about having her children have a proper education and reading, and always reading. And even for me, because she knew that I struggled with reading, she's like, here, come on. She was from the South, and she's from Arkansas. She's like, come here, darling, come here. And, here's a book. So, and she liked mystery books. So yeah, I'm all about grandmas. Grandmas are awesome. So
Yeah, awesome.
we're talking about grandmothers and grandchildren, but in a general sense, what do you hope to spark?
We hope that the books will spark quality time, right, between grandparents, parents, aunties, uncles. It doesn't matter, because if you can read together with a child quietly, it allows that quality time to happen. And in this day and age, we're always rushing somewhere. We're always rushing to something, and we're hoping that these books will help them sit down and read together, especially if they're together in the book. Right? Then both of them can be excited about seeing their likeness in the book and have conversations with each other. Because at the end of the day, we try to also put a lot of detail. We try to put as many details as we can in our books, so that the parent or the adult in the situation can also ask questions, right? Like, oh, what do you see? How do you feel? Things like that. And the younger the child is the good parts where you can have these conversations with them. And for the older ones, you can have, what is their takeaway from the book? Can they see themselves being following in their footsteps that we've suggested in the book? Or can they see the values that we're trying to instill via the book as well? And and sometimes if I tell a child, you need to be creative, you need to be courageous, a child's going to have a lot of difficulty understanding how do I be courageous. And we're hoping that these books will help bridge that gap to help them understand it, help the parents say, oh, so this is things that you can do to be curious, to be courageous, be grateful for the things that we have in life, because and sometimes I feel children also forget that they've been very lucky in their lives. My nieces, my friends' kids also. I mean, they've got it pretty good compared to some of us who've struggled in days that have passed. Because technology has made most of our lives so much easier. So sometimes we want to make sure that they don't forget to be grateful as well for all the amenities they have these days. Information at their fingertips, a Nintendo Switch whenever they want, food in the cupboard, things like that. So we're hoping it kind of sparks these kind of conversations. But at the base of it all, we want it to spark quality time. Because once you build this relationship with the children, they will want to sit with you and read. They want you to read to them. And these days, sometimes when I go over to my brother's house, I just sit and read because I'm that early for dinner or things like that. I sit and read, and then my niece trots out from her bedroom from whatever she was doing, possibly playing a game. If she brings a book, she just sits next to me and read as well. And we're just sitting there on the couch reading, right? Because she's already gotten into the habit. And as we all know, right? Children see, children follow, right? When we did it when she was younger, now she does it for her younger cousins.
That's adorable. And that's exactly one of the platforms that we came into this podcast hoping to advocate for, which is trying to use reading and books as bonding time between families and between communities and between neighbors. And Felicia, you have been so amazing. You are on the last question of the day. We thank you again for tuning in with us. But before we ask the last question, we want to remind our listeners, please, wherever you are, wherever you're tuning in, give a like, subscribe if you can, leave a comment, but even more importantly, go to the website, thestorytellershelfpodcast.com, click on that episodic calendar page and find StoryVerse. Click Felicia and see what she's doing and where you can go support StoryVerse on social media and shop on their website. Now, Felicia, last golden question. What else would you like our storytellers to know about you and Storyverse land? If there's one thing that they can take away from today, what is that one special thought?
I want people to dream, right? To dream, nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. As readers, we live 1,000 lives through the books we read. The end goal is that we want to dream. A lot of adults I know have lost the dreaming gene, and we should just some days sit out somewhere or sit somewhere quiet, it doesn't really matter, and dream about the things that could be. We lost, as adults, that little thing from our childhood days where we think anything is possible. These days, nothing is possible. Oh, I have too much work, I have children, I have bills. Well, take a step back for a moment and dream a little bit. You never know what that's going to find you. And I think throughout my life, I've tried to keep that alive. I mean, I've dreamt up many things, some successful, some not. Right? But look, I think at the end of the day, dreaming is very important, and it makes us better people when we can see different sides of a problem as well.
You heard it here, guys. Please dream. Please create. Don't worry if the dream doesn't work out, because you're supposed to have many more and experience the ups and downs. Resilience is really important. But let's all go in for that virtual hug right now and tell Felicia thank you so much for being here. And we hope that you will join us again on the Storyteller Shelf podcast.
And I'm really happy that we had this conversation. And I really, really, really am quite happy that y'all are doing this for many people out there as well.
Hey, storyteller. You know what pairs perfectly with a great podcast? A great cup of coffee. Set the mood with us. Sip something bold or cozy with free reign coffee. When you grab a bag through our affiliate link, you're not just fueling your day. You're helping us keep this podcast sustainable. And even better, with each purchase, free reign coffee gives back, supporting charities like the Special Operations Warrior Foundation and others that stand behind first responders, teachers, and veterans. So go ahead and join us as a storyteller and a changemaker.